Going to jail in Dubai is a rite of passage if you're a resident. Or it is according to everybody who was trying to make me feel better about my own circumstances. Welcome to my podcast, Say It Louder. I am Selena Waterman-Smith, serial entrepreneur, ex-apprentice candidate, and I'm here to share things that are the unspeakable that other people are too afraid to talk about. So far, we've gone through childhood trauma, my time on The Apprentice, and the pitfalls of doing business in the United Arab Emirates, where I was a resident in Dubai for 15 years. In the previous episode, we finished talking about how I had a negative experience with a potential investor, with someone who approached me posing as an investor. So we're going to pick up right where we left off. If you are a business owner in the UAE and you're looking for some advice and maybe some context around the legal system there and the pitfalls of being approached by someone posing as an investor, make sure you listen to episode 7 first. So he had his own business by this point. I had my business. My business was really successful. I was doing so well and I was so happy, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was really wrong. People kept saying, just forget about him. My lawyer said, he's not important. You know, it's criminal fraud, apparently, to approach people in Dubai when you don't have a trade license. You can't approach people and say you're a doctor or you're a real estate agent or anything like that if you don't have a trade license and a visa that supports that. And this was a major thing for me. Because I also didn't want to be involved in anything that was criminal or that was potentially going to be detrimental to my business. So finding out that he didn't have any of this paperwork was one of the main reasons why I declined to work with him and to move forward with him, as well as the fact that the real investment never materialized. So I had some uncomfortable experiences. I'd obviously had 8 months of being harassed by his lawyer and being told that I was going to jail and they were going to sue me for criminal fraud, all sorts of threats that my legal team said had absolutely no bearing. And I'd also taken that correspondence to the police, and the Dubai police had advised me to ignore him. They said he can't do anything, he's just trying to scare you, you've offered him money and he's declined to take it, that's on him. Now, I don't know, but I suspect that he was perhaps trying to open some sort of civil case, and I can only assume that those cases did not come to fruition, because legally there is no claim that he has to my business. And what I hoped was that because he had his own business, I thought, cool, well, he can go and do that. He's made his choice. He didn't want to invest in me. He didn't want to take the settlement. He's chosen to do his own thing. Let's draw a line under it. And my business expanded. I ended up getting my own kitchen. I bootstrapped it. I found a really cheap kitchen in an international city that I did up myself. It was kind of a mess when we got it, but it was such a proud moment to move in there. I expanded my team to 25 employees. I had an office. I had 2 delivery outlets, and I started new restaurant brands as well. I started Keto by Beast Mode and Bounty Bowls, and then I was planning on a dessert concept as well. Dessert's really popular in the Middle East. Arabs often have a bit of a sweet tooth. So things were progressing. But I think the experiences that I had at the beginning of the business really triggered some sort of PTSD or survival mode. And it put me into this space of overworking and feeling afraid and feeling as though I had to look over my shoulder. And that was honestly really bad for me because I couldn't stop and I couldn't switch off. And it was almost as though I was operating from this place of fear where I was constantly afraid that he was going to do something. And if anyone's been a victim of stalking or harassment or domestic abuse, you'll probably know what I'm talking about, and you'll probably have had similar emotions, because it's living in fear of someone. It's knowing that somebody wants to cause you harm. You know, the correspondence that I had from him was genuinely terrifying. It was an insight into his mind and into his version of reality. And he seemed so enraged. So of course I was frightened of him. And by 2021, I had completely run out of steam. Although I had scaled my business and built all these things, I had nothing left to give. I had been running on empty for such a long time. Not getting the investment early meant that I was basically working absolutely inhumane hours and scaling a 5 million dirham plus business single-handedly, which is crazy, especially in food and beverage. Nobody does that. And by hell or high water, I did it. But then when I got to a point of stability, I wasn't really able to enjoy it. And there were other things in the industry as well. You know, as I've said, doing business in the Middle East can be challenging. And I didn't experience this so much with my event business, but within food and beverage, there was so much double dealing. For example, with suppliers. I had a great relationship with suppliers, or so I thought, and I would always pay people on the nail. As soon as the statement of accounts came in, I would release the payment. But I noticed multiple times with suppliers that they were inflating prices or overcharging me or fabricating invoices. And I feel as though that is a really strong lesson about doing business in that part of the world. And this is a blanket statement, but it's almost like scam or be scammed. Either you've got your hand in the cookie jar or somebody has their hand in your cookie jar. And I felt increasingly morally conflicted by the way that other people were doing business. And I knew that other businesses don't pay their staff on time, don't pay suppliers, don't pay end of service, don't give people visas. And when you try and do everything the right way in Dubai, you end up spending a lot of money, and other people are trying to cheat you, so then you're losing money. So it becomes increasingly difficult. Do you challenge your own sense of morality and your own moral compass, knowing that it's financially detrimental? I found this really difficult to navigate and to negotiate. And I also began thinking that perhaps the UAE was not the right place for me. I also had a bit of compassion fatigue around animal welfare. There's not really any shelters there. I was involved in the animal rescue kind of culture and community. I'd fostered a lot of animals and tried to get them rehomed. I began to become a bit more conscious of how people are treated. You know, it is a class-based society, and we Westerners are so privileged and we have tax-free salaries. But then there's the service industry in the UAE, people from other countries that are just not treated as well. And I think as I got a bit older and wiser, those things became more difficult to ignore. So there were reasons why I thought maybe it was time to sell the business. And the business was successful, so I thought there'd be no problems finding a buyer. And also, finding a buyer would mean that, again, it draws a line under this situation with this guy who I felt like was in the wings. I felt like I was being watched. A few times I thought I saw his car near my apartment, and his rival company also closed. I heard on the grapevine that it was financially doing really badly, and I think he might have had his own investor, and someone told me that he fell out with his investor. I don't know if any of this is true, but I think perhaps if these other businesses that he claimed to be involved in, the gym and the marketing company and then the food company, if all of those were no longer viable, maybe this is why he swung back around and started focusing on me again. This is just my speculation. So I was privately looking for a buyer, and this is where it gets really weird again. And I had somebody email me from a Gmail telling me that they were the owner of a series of laundromats and they wanted to buy the business. But this person was absolutely adamant that they wanted my profit and loss accounts. Now, I'm not going to send profit and loss to some random person that's emailing me from a Gmail. That's not the engagement model for selling a business. And the email, the tone was almost identical to the emails that I was getting from this guy previously, and he was hell-bent on getting my P&L back in 2019 and 2020. He was adamant that he wanted copies of it. So this sent me absolutely spiraling, because I'm thinking, how does he know that I'm thinking to sell this business? I haven't announced it. I haven't told anyone. I didn't want my clients to feel worried. I was pretty positive that that person emailing me was the same guy. And yeah, I had such a bad reaction to it. And then I had some other things happen internally in the business. And I actually decided to essentially offload the brand. I was like, I don't even want to sell it. You know what? I'm going to bury my head in the sand. I'm going to make no money out of this, because I hope that if he sees that I'm no longer a threat and I'm no longer successful and I've no longer got money, maybe he will stop trying to approach me. I felt like he was trying to take what I had. So I did a deal with a kitchen where they basically took over the running of the brand, and I would take a small percentage of the profits every month. They absorbed the brand. We did this deal. I cancelled all my trade licenses. They took on my staff, my recipes, my database. That deal unfortunately didn't work out long term. They ended up closing the brands and I think transitioning my clients into their business. There's nothing I could do about that. I accepted that could happen. But I did walk away from that with practically nothing. It was a really difficult time. And 5 months later, or maybe 4 months later, I was still trying to put my life back together. I was absolutely devastated that I'd lost my business. I was heartbroken that something I had invested so much time and energy into, I felt like had been taken away from me. But I really didn't see any other option. You know, what do you do in that scenario? What do you do when you feel like someone is out there wanting to destroy you? So I had a bit of a breakdown after those businesses kind of closed. Financially, I was okay, but I was really trying to put my life back together, and I was moving into coaching. I'd obviously qualified in NLP and life coaching and all these healing modalities, and I thought this is going to be so much better for me long term. I can work from anywhere in the world. I can help people. Maybe I'm not cut out for business in the Middle East. Maybe it's just not for me. And while I was setting up this business and renewing my trade license, I got a text message out of the blue one day from Dubai courts in Arabic, and I translated it, and it said, there has been a case executed against you for 130,000 dirhams and a search and arrest warrant issued in your name. That text message nearly ruined my entire life, and it symbolized a 2-year struggle of being trapped in the UAE with a travel ban, a search and arrest warrant, immigration ban. There was a warrant on my car, so I couldn't renew my car registration. My bank account was frozen. All of the money was taken from the bank account, and I had absolutely no idea why. And how can that happen without somebody being notified? If you were considering doing business in that part of the world, beware that this can happen to you at any point. And what I found out from investigating into this case and from my experiences there is that this is the norm. More than 75% of civil cases in that part of the world are in absentia. And you know who's opening these cases? People that are manipulating the system. People that know that because the Dubai Civil Courts doesn't have a notifications process, that if you are not notified and you don't appear, the claimant automatically wins. Now I ask you, what sort of legal system is this, where anyone can just go down to the civil court, pay 5% of the claim, make up whatever story they want in their statement, and if you file with fake contact details for the other party, or better yet, file when they're outside the country, and you can request a special dispensation from the court that the court won't try and contact them. So even if they don't have a notifications process, someone in the court might try and phone you or notify you. But if someone's outside the country, like I was in 2021, I was in Costa Rica for 2 months and doing the Inca Trail in Peru, it was so easy for him to file this allegation and give them fake contact details and ask them not to contact me. And that's not even the worst of it. You're probably thinking, oh, well, you know, maybe he was entitled to the company. No, he was not. It gets even stickier. The case was filed as a check bounce case. And there are 2 types of civil cases. There's a normal civil case, which can take 2 years to go through the court, and there are check bounce cases. Check bouncing, although they say it's been decriminalized in that part of the world, it's still really serious. Now, for reference, I've never written him a check. And a check bounce case goes through the court very quickly, and there are really serious punishments for doing it. It's a really serious matter. Now, there was no criminal case for this check bounce case because there was no check. But then in his statement, he claimed that I borrowed money from him, and then for 2 years I was trying to take it back. He was trying to take it back, and I was refusing, and I effectively stole money from him. So you can imagine how furious I was when I found that out. But that's not even the worst bit, because I only found out about this after the case was done and dusted. So I had a phone number that was connected to my lease, my car, my Emirates ID. It is not possible that they couldn't contact me. So I feel like the whole thing was a scam. And this is happening to thousands of people in that part of the world. People are just waking up to find their bank accounts frozen. All their cars have been seized. All their assets have been taken. Because people are manipulating this system, knowing how easy it is. Because the courts just don't care. They have no humanity. And they don't read evidence. They don't request evidence if the other person doesn't appear. So all he provided as evidence was an email where we were negotiating the settlement. But there's no context to that. It's clear we're talking about a business. It's nothing to do with a personal loan. And I was denied the right to appeal. The judge said he doesn't care about the merits of the case. As far as he's concerned, I didn't show up, therefore it's my fault, even though I was outside the country, and he knows that. And for 2 years, I had to survive in Dubai without a without a bank account and driving my car illegally. And I didn't have anyone to borrow money from. I didn't have family. So I had to keep running a business. I was running a business coaching company. And the irony is that I was coaching clients on business strategy and business setup in the UAE. But I had this monstrous, horrific situation going on for 2 years. And as soon as my bank account was frozen, the money was taken and given to him. Guess what he did? He sent me another demand, this time for 300,000 dirhams, saying that he had footage from my Instagram from 2019. How has he got footage from my Instagram? Saying that I said that his business was a rival to mine and that was defamation and that he wanted 300,000. My lawyer said, ignore it. He's just trying to get more money out of you. But do you see how easy it is for someone who has a grudge to enact revenge and to weaponize the legal system in that part of the world? And secondly, if you're a victim of DAVO, which is deny, attack, reverse victim offender, it's a domestic abuse concept, or if you have an ex-boyfriend who's out to get you, or an ex-husband, and you have a domestic dispute, how easy it is for somebody to really ruin your life. And I think that's what he tried to do. So after 2 years of going through absolute hell, I was literally in survival mode. I thought things couldn't get any worse than losing my beloved business. But the courts just don't care. The courts literally said to me, you're just a woman. Men don't need evidence to accuse women. Yes, we acknowledge there's no evidence in this case. The check is missing in the check bounce case. And I just kept going down to the court and I kept hammering them and standing up for my rights and saying, after what I've already been through in this country as a kidnapping survivor, maybe you could give it a break. And I think eventually they got so frustrated with me, they actually put me in jail for a few days to try and make me pay. And jails are horrific in Dubai. They're full of innocent people that have sad tales that have all been put there by vindictive people. And the UAE fully perpetuates this level of vindictiveness. It's so easy, like I said, to weaponize and to make false allegations to get someone in trouble because they just don't care. There's no humanity. And every day they said to me, you need to pay this money or we won't let you out. We're going to put you in solitary confinement if you don't pay this money. And I said, absolutely not. I said, I didn't borrow any money. I completely refute that. Show me any evidence. Show me any financial proof that I personally borrowed money and refused to return it. What we can see from all of my correspondence, which of course, I'm a girl, I got receipts, is that we tried to negotiate with him. I could not have been more fair and decent in my dealings with him. And there's a lot of things that he's done that represent breach of trust and fraud. They don't care about any of that. In the end, the CID actually let me out. They said, you know what? This guy was like, I believe you. No one's going to stay in jail voluntarily with that situation. We tried to negotiate with him. I was being represented by Detained in Dubai. We did a media campaign around it. There is no way out if you have a civil case judgment against you, because even if the courts are wrong, the judges will not admit it because they can't be wrong because they're so arrogant and superior to everyone else. This is the legal system. This is the reality of doing business in that part of the world, that everything you own can be snatched away from you in an instant. So in the end, I was referred to a company in Oman who basically moved people over the border into Oman with a travel ban. So I went with 2 other English guys who also had civil cases because there's a whole community of people in Dubai. And I had been told by everyone from the lady that cuts my hair to the owner of a British networking group, oh, it's a rite of passage. Oh, I had that. I had a check bounce case against me for 500 dirhams. I had somebody make a complaint about me that wasn't true. They will lock you up in an instant. I mean, most people go to jail in Dubai, but they're just not talking about it. But this podcast is called Say It Louder, so I'm talking about it because I want everyone to be aware of how horrendous it is. So when I realized there was no way out and there was no way in hell that I was going to give him more money, especially as my bank account had been frozen and all the money had been taken, I'd spent all of my savings in the UK on legal fees, I decided that I was not going to die in a Middle Eastern country. I was not going to go to jail and stay there. And I knew that the next time they put me in jail, they would keep me in there indefinitely. And people get tortured there in jail, people get sexually assaulted, people are denied medical care. I am not going to accept that in any way, shape or form. So this Omani company, you pay them some money, they stamp your passport with an exit stamp, which you're not supposed to have because you have a travel ban, and they basically drive you over the border. And I'm now approaching my 2-year anniversary of leaving the UAE and escaping with my life. So imagine, I've contributed to the economy, run businesses, ran networking groups and events for women. I've written articles for Arabian Business. I've been on The Apprentice. I've been on radio shows. I've routinely been in magazines and newspapers. I have this good reputation, no criminal record. I'd also fought this horrendous case for kidnapping and sexual assault, and I'd advocated for Dubai and been a good citizen, but they don't care about any of that because they don't care about people. And I eventually had to leave, not on an Emirates A380 business class, which would have been so nice. I had to leave in the boot of a car and escape with my life. And I really think that more people should be talking about it. And after I left, I had severe PTSD. It was just too much. It was too terrifying, the situation. I was in England. He found me in England. We have no idea how he finds me, how he tracks me. You know, this situation has now been going on for 7 years. It's absolutely terrifying. I then started getting threatening letters to this UK address that I was staying at, demanding money, saying he's going to make me bankrupt in England. I took it to the police. I had a police letter. I had a letter from my doctor saying that I had PTSD. I went to the Citizens Advice Bureau, and they said he's not allowed to do this in the UK. You don't have any judgments against you in the UK, so it's actually kind of prohibited for him to do this, but that doesn't stop him. I ended up moving to Australia after doing some travel. I was really trying to put my head back together. It was so difficult to recover. I think I was completely in survival mode, suffering from PTSD. I didn't have any family to stay with. I didn't have anywhere to kind of stay in a safe haven. Ended up in Australia, meeting an amazing man and getting into a relationship with him. Within 5 days of me being in Australia and again staying at my friend's house on Sunshine Coast, I got a letter to his house on the Sunshine Coast demanding money. And I had a friend watching this guy's social media, and there was nothing on his social media about Australia, but the letter I received was sent from inside Australia. But when we checked on LinkedIn, there was a LinkedIn post that he was tagged in of himself in Melbourne. So this guy had come from Dubai to Melbourne 5 days after I arrived in the country and sent me a letter from Melbourne to the Sunshine Coast. So then I had to go down the route of reporting it all to the police in Australia. And this is when I started becoming educated about terms like coercive control and DAVO and domestic abuse, harassment, stalking. I'd always thought of it as just a business deal that, you know, didn't take off and went wrong, but there was so much more nuance to this situation. And I recognized that I had been a victim of this really terrifying abusive situation. And it's not really about money, it's about destroying another person. And that's why it affected me so badly. That's why I lost everything in Dubai and I had to escape with my life. And it has been 7 years, and I'm really struggling to put myself back together. I haven't really been able to work for 2 years because of the PTSD, because of all the trauma. It's now become complex PTSD. So I'm safe in my environment, but the main reason why I'm writing the book, number one, because it's bringing awareness, but it's also cathartic for me. I don't think I'm capable of running a big business anymore. I'm too fragile, shall we say, which I hate admitting. And this is why I'm doing the podcast, because I think that more people need to speak out about these experiences they're having in the UAE. And I'm hoping that series 2 of my podcast is going to be with guests of other people that have experienced similar things in the United Arab Emirates. And it's a country that I used to be very proud of, but I now think needs serious reform if they're going to keep attracting Westerners. And it's just not safe there as a woman, and it's not a safe place to do business. And I'm happy to share my experiences. So the book is nearly finished. I'm so excited. I'm speaking to publishers at the moment. I'm really looking forward to doing series 2 of my podcast. Thank you for all of your support across social media, especially everyone on TikTok. You're an amazing community, and I'm so pleased that we're building all of this and that people are becoming aware of the pitfalls of working and traveling to that part of the world. So remember that nothing good happens when we stay silent. The only people that benefit from that are the abusers, and that's why I hope that you will all say it louder.